All right, guys. So we just got done reading chapter 4. We're going to read chapter 5, and then we will be done for the week. So after I get done with this chapter, I need you to click on the Google Form link at the bottom of the slide. And on that Google Form link is a few multiple choice questions, very easy questions about what we read this week. And then there's also going to be 2 short answer questions. Now, by short answer, I mean just a sentence or two, a complete sentence about what you read. These are going to be more opinion based. So, one of them, there is a right answer. One of them, there is not a right answer. So, go ahead and sit back and enjoy this chapter, and then we will be done for the week. So, this is chapter 5, Spitting Image. There's a place I go inside my head sometimes. It's cool and dim in there, and you float like a cloud. No, you are a cloud. The kind you see in the sky on a windy day. The way they keep changing shape. Except you can't really see it changing. It just sort of happens. And suddenly, you realize the cloud that looks like a big hand with fat fingers now looks like a catcher's mitt or a big soft TV set. Kind of like that. Anyhow, I went there right after the fair Gwen ran off with that look on her face, like, what was he doing with my poor little boy, stealing him away in the wagon? What I do is I lie on the floor underneath my bed, where you can just barely see the bed springs and stuff because it's so dark. And before long, I'm somewhere else, sort of floating. And it's so cool and empty on there that you don't have to think about anything. You're nothing. You're nobody. Nothing matters, and you're not even there. Time out. Except this time, I can't stay as long as I'd like because Graham is knocking on the door, going, Maxwell? Max, are you there? Please answer me, dear. It's important. Yeah, right. But I wedge out from underneath the bed. There's getting to be less and less room under there, and I dust myself off and open the door. There's no lock, but Graham has this thing about waiting until I say come in. She makes a big deal about not intruding. Maxwell, she says, and she takes a little step inside the room, and you can tell she'd rather not be here. She makes this face because the place is dark and messy, and probably it smells like my socks or whatever. Max, dear, I'm sorry to bother you. You know I never come into the basement, but I just got a call from Gwen Avery, and I think it's important. Uh-oh, I'm thinking. Now the fair Gwen's calling up my Graham, probably to report a great hulking beast lives in her cellar, and I close up inside, waiting for the worst. She called to say how sorry she was, Graham is saying. Huh? I guess she came to pick up her little boy, is that right? You and Kevin were making friends? Making friends? What a wet idea that is, but Graham gets her feelings hurt pretty easy, so I don't actually say that. What I say is, yeah, I guess so. Graham is uneasy. I can see her eyes flitting nervously around the room, like she's crossing the border into a really foreign country. This is as good a place as any to mention that even though Graham is my grandmother, she doesn't look like a granny. She looks more like a mother because she was, as she always says, a mere child herself when my real mother was born, meaning she was young. Well, I get the impression that poor Gwen wasn't expecting to see you looking so big, and now she thinks she's offended you. Does that make sense? I guess so. You know her? Oh my, yes, says Graham. Gwen was a good friend of your mother's. They were both pregnant at the same time. And then later on, you and little Kevin went to the same daycare. Did you know that? I gave a shrug because I don't really like Graham to know how much I remember about way back then. Graham is saying, she said she especially wanted me to tell you this, Max. She said she's delighted that you and Kevin are going to be friends. That's the word she used, delighted. And she's invited you over for supper. First thing, without even thinking, I say, do I have to? Graham reaches out and puts her hand on my shoulder, real light and feathery. You can tell how nervous she is just to touch me and how it makes her feel uncomfortable to have to look up to me. Because, did I mention I'm a lot bigger than Graham? I'm bigger than Graham, too. Bigger than most people? It's true. Graham says, well, she feels bad about how she treated you, Maxwell, dear, and she wants to make it up to you. You don't have to go, but it would be the right thing to do. It was no big deal, I say. She just ran away's all. I guess I scared her. It wasn't you, Graham says. No, then who was it that scared her? Now she got her tongue stuck, and you can see her swallowing in her throat, like her mouth is real dry. I'll just leave that to Gwen, she says. She's quite a remarkable woman, raising that poor boy all on her own. He's not a poor boy, I say. You should hear him talk. I think the rest of him is so small because his brain is so big. Yes, says Graham. Well, well. Graham's always saying that, well, well, like it means something, which I guess maybe it does to her. Anyhow, I agree to have supper with Freak and his mom, even though the idea of it makes me feel all tensed up, like there's a hand inside my stomach, and the hand is, making a fist. It turns out to be not so bad. The fair Gwen, right away, she's beaming at me, bouncing around the kitchen and talking a mile a minute, so fast that the words kind of smush all together. So did Susan, excuse me, your grandmother, mention your mom and I were pals, that is? Until she got married, excuse me, I never could abide that man. I always thought he was crazy and scary. Is it okay to say that you won't be offended? It's like this delay while I sort it all out, and then I go, yeah, Graham told me. And the stuff about her knowing my father and thinking he was sick in the head, I just decide not to comment's the best way to go. You were the cutest little baby, Gwen says. I remember it like it was yesterday. We were all of us living over in the tenements in those days because the rent was so cheap and we were all just starting out. Freak's on the floor digging through the packing boxes for pots and pans and stuff. He's almost inside the box. All you can see is his funny little rear end sticking out. You'd think he was maybe 2 years old. That's how small he is. Until you notice where his leg brace makes a lump in his pants. From inside the box, he goes, Hey, Gwen, leave the guy alone, huh? You're going spastic. Am I? Gwen asks. She's at the counter going through drawers and looking for spoons or whatever. I'm sorry, Max. That is, I'm sorry we got off on the wrong foot. It's just, Freak's head pops out of the box, and he's got this wicked know-it-all grin. What she means is, you're the spitting image of your old man. Gwen says, Kevin, please, and her voice is real small, like she's embarrassed. Yeah, I say, everybody tells me that. They do? I shrug. Is it really such a big deal for a boy to look like his father? Which is typical butthead thinking, because of course it's a big deal if your father happens to be in prison, which everybody in town knows about. It's not like there's any secret about what he did or why he's there, except everybody acts like it should be a secret. And the bigger I grow, the more I look like my old man, and that's when it gets worse. You really knew him, I say? I mean, him and my mom when they were together? Not very well, Gwen said. She's looking for a knife to slice open a pack of hot dogs. I never saw much of your mom after they got married. He made it difficult for your mother to have any friends. There's a knife on the table, and I pick it up and I hand it to the fair Gwen. She doesn't really flinch away, and I decide she's okay. She's actually pretty cool. So, Freak's saying, when do we eat? My fuel cells are depleted. Supper's great. The fair Gwen makes this really tasty potato salad with spices and stuff. Way better than the mushy stuff that Graham makes. And we have hot dogs fried in a pan with the buns toasted up, butter crisp, just the way I like, and 2 kinds of relish and 3 kinds of mustard and red onions cut up real small. We sit out in the backyard eating from paper plates, and Freak is telling robot stories that are so strange and funny, I'm laughing like a maniac, and then I'm choking and Freak is pounding me on the back. Expel the object, Freak shouts. Regurgitate, you big moron! And he gives another thump, and I cough up this yucky mess. But I'm still laughing so hard that my nose is running. What a goon! Except it really is funny, me trying to sneeze a hot dog out through my nose, and we're both laughing like total morons. This is great, Gwen says, looking at Freak and me. I'm glad we decided to move back. I feel like we're all just getting a fresh start. It's time to go home. Graham gets nervous if I'm not back before dark. Everything seems really great, just like Gwen says, except when I lie down on my bed, it hits me, boom, and I'm crying like a baby. And the really weird thing is, I'm happy. All right, so you've got Max, and you've kind of got introduced to maybe 2 new characters in this chapter. So Max lives with his grandma and grandpa, Grim and Graham. But where are his mom and dad? So they kind of allude to the fact in the beginning that Max looks like his dad, but they're just calling him him. They don't want to say his dad. So that is kind of weird at first, and we don't know where mom is at. So this chapter, the Fair Gwen, she kind of mentions, that yes, Max looks like his dad. She used to be friends with his mom until Max's dad got with Max's mom. And then it comes out that Max's dad is in prison. So why is Max's dad in prison, and where is Max's mom? So, anybody have any opinions on why Max's dad might be in prison? Go ahead and go to that Google form on the bottom of the slide. Answer those multiple choice questions, answer those short answer questions, and that is all I have for this week. So have a great weekend, and I will see you, I guess not see you, but I will talk to you on Monday.